Welcome to our podcast, Below the Belt. Good to have each and every one of you here with us. Know some of you might be now waking up, some of you straightening your hair, tuning in. Good to have each and every one of you. Such beautiful, fantastic folks. And Beatrice Selby is always here, a loyal listener and viewer. She says, "Good day. I am aboard. I am aboard." Candy Lillian Indrajit is another one of our faithful listeners. She says, "A good afternoon to all of you and your viewers." Good afternoon to you as well. Good afternoon to you as well, Candy. And I have Claire Capel is here with us today. And you know who we have also? We have also the co-host of our morning program, FYI. She is here in studio and she's going to be joining us. You know, Jurita is a economist by training, by profession. She did economics for her undergraduate degree at the University of Guyana, our alma mater, and also she did her master's there at the university as well, and she did public policy. Is it? Because those who can do public administration do public policy. Who can do business? What's the other one?
It's public
But
administration.
yes, I'm correct. Who can do public administration? They do public policy. You see, you have to have the brains, for public administration. Even though you went QC and you went Shoreville Secondary and Bartica Secondary, you got all the education. You can't get the brains in public administration. So those who can do public admin, they go there do public policy. We understand. We understand. No biggie. Right? Never mind you to finish public policy. I'm still trying to finish my MBA in public administration. Still trying to finish that, but by God's grace, as we settle down and we do what we got to do, we're gonna figure things out. We're gonna figure things out.
Just a little
Oh,
correction,
eventually, yeah.
guys. Good day. It's always good
So
to
I
be
got
here.
Stouffville wrong, I got Barton secondary wrong, I got
Now I
QC
was
wrong,
just telling you
I
that
got UG wrong, I got
that
public
I
policy wrong.
yes, like I did public administration.
Oh,
I
you
did I
did.
did a master's in public administration.
Oh, good.
So
You know what they always say? Those who can't do public policy do public administration.
you could flip that.
You know what they always say? Folks, we just run out here, and say that. We come through the ranks. We come through the ranks. We ain't just run out here. So Jurita is well qualified, well versed in economics. More than some of these people who out there touted themselves to be all kinds of bishop in economics and archbishop and apostle in economics. All these fancy things. Today we're talking about the cost of living crisis. Why some regions are more equal than others. Why some regions are more equal than others. And I'm looking at the graphic and I'm happy the guys put it big and bold. You can't miss it. Folks, there is a crisis in cost of living locally. Nothing short of that. There's a crisis,
Yeah.
right? Candy, the lean industry, she says, good going, guys, with you and your studies. Some people think we just run out here,
I wish.
right?
I wish
We
I
just
did.
run out here.
Oh my
Right?
God.
I had the privilege of doing first undergraduate at UG Communications, and I did law. And then I say, hey, no, Charita beating me. I'm gonna do a master's too. Don't she think she out front?
Well,
I can do a master's too.
as crazy as it is,
Yeah.
right? I did when I was done with secondary school, I wrote CXC right in Bartica Secondary,
Mhm.
and I happened to top the region when I wrote
Oh
exams
wow,
there. So
a region topper here.
everyone expected me to go on and did some further studies.
Mhm.
And when I was at university and doing my bachelor's in economics, when I was done with it, I went back home. I was ready to work and just be good with it. But then
Uh huh.
when I made a decision to actually step into public life altogether and be a part of that system, I was thinking that I don't want to be doing something that I'm not qualified in. So that's why I made a decision to go and do the master's in public
Yeah.
administration,
Yeah.
because I wanted to know exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You ain't
Yeah.
just you ain't just you ain't just come out here and just run out. We
Yeah.
the people with things. We got with things. But as I was starting my master's, we were entering into the 2020 campaign,
Mm,
and I
I remember that.
took a leave of absence so I can be on the ground. I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I do it all over again. You understand me? But we said
Yes.
people with things. We went Iflot University. We went Eugene Fallout. And we did that, folks who are listening to us. We did UG, did we academics. I mean, I got to finish the MBA. And we were involved in student life.
Yeah, well, most definitely.
We had been first running with each other in student politics. I had my own party, a winning party.
Guys, you don't know how Cher
Uh,
did politics.
I
I
had
can
my
teach
winning
you.
party, right? Revolutionaries, and we still out here, right? You had standard bearers on campus. People who said they went to university. When you start talking university life, your
They
extracurricular
back
life,
down.
they back down because they never really went. They like how it sounded them out,
They registered.
Catfish in them, Carly boy. Yeah. We never followed in second year and end
Uh,
up at IFLOT University, some no-name business school that wasn't even accredited. We came through, survive UG.
yeah, the first scrutineering job I did was at the UGSS election.
Elections! We come through the ranks, fought tooth and nail to better students. Like, Sharon, who got to UG now? Not students, Sharon. Who got to UG now? They're getting good.
Yeah.
Back in the days, you had to stand up to carrying your hard copy application
At the
form
back.
at the back.
Persons would know Ganesh from that point.
Ganesh,
Made it his
Ganesh gets
duty
saved
every
now.
year.
Ganesh really clean up nicely though. All things being equal, he really clean up. If you see something back in the days, you won't pay nothing for we. But we came
Not to
through.
me, good.
Ganesh
I
had
was looking good.
Ganesh had a student party called Student Factor.
Yes.
Right? Student Factor. You had
United Students Alliance.
that was your party, the Economist Party.
That
whole
was
set
our
of
class.
whole
Our
set of
class.
students pack up, economists pack up in there. Right? And for all y'all who the bright, what the country there now?
Oh my goodness.
Cost of living sky high. All y'all feel y'all know everything. Right? And it's revolutionaries running. It's the revolutionaries holding down thing. Folks, y'all don't we just catching up on old time story. But we come through the ranks. And we got with things.
Most definitely.
Right? We got with things. Right? Catfish went to Eugene followed in second year. Y'all don't know that? Some folks are asking me, yes, Catfish went to UG, followed in second year, end up at some no-name university, get some fake degree.
I think you were there looking for that university.
I never find it. I flood looking for this university. I never find it street by street. Right? They said whatever you earn there is equivalent to this first degree. Madness. The place was never even accredited because I went to the accreditation council and asked them myself. We do your homework, it's not now. We understand research as students who come through the ranks. We understand that. And so we do research. Right? And we come out here usually proud of us. Usually very proud of us. Right? Hold on. One day I'll be a guest speaker at one of the graduations. You what you see. We come through the ranks. I came through IDC.
I don't miss it.
Full-fledged university. No, it's true. It's true. I enjoy the day eating the little plantain chip on the catwalk. You sit down watching people model themselves.
Well, I had a different experience because folks that's listening to us.
I won't talk with boyfriends at this program,
I had no such
thing.
Listen, I'm innocent. Good.
Innocent. You should see her face. Innocent for truth.
Innocent.
Yeah.
No, but he was Cheryl just speaking about eating plantain chip on the catwalk. But I was saying I had a little different experience during my time at University, and I remember at one point in time, the rain fell for over 24 hours. The next morning, we went to campus. The entire campus was flooded, and some of my colleagues that were in my class, they were staying in the dormitory there on campus at NBS dorms. And so they came out with their short pants and the t-shirt, and they were fishing on the catwalk.
Yeah.
So,
we should really,
PVP,
we should really give this. We should really give UG a lot of money because UG serves a dual purpose. This nation is a premier educational institution. Then it's a reservoir as well. It's a reservoir, folks, and we suffer.
Yes,
on that campus under the PPP. Suffer. PPP had a tactic just like no. You call a strike, whether it's workers or it's a student strike, they wait you out.
Yeah.
Let me see how much y'all go there March. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
We suffer on that campus for accommodations. I know the days of fetching furniture, classroom to classroom,
And,
right?
actually
Students get
being
it
in
nice now,
we
folks.
were in the stables, all the
Y'all go in
economic
GWLT
classes.
now, and y'all see the AC and so on.
Like, what is that?
What is AC in GWLT? You're
I
getting
can't believe
is our
it.
activism produce that
Yep.
AC, right? The stables looking nice and dandy now, right?
It was
But you know
looking
what?
like the stables when I was
You know what?
there.
To segue into our conversation of the rising cost of living, the cost of living crisis, and why some regions more equal than others. Let me tell you what a lecturer of mine told me. I won't call her name. I won't put you in problems.
Mhm.
She served her time and she resting comfortably now
A
when she retirement
sculpture.
and so on. I ain't want problems. So you remember the stables?
Yes.
She told us in a law class. That's the much I give us one of my law lecturers.
Okay.
She said the stables were designed to last for about 15 to 20 years as the other aspects of the university was built. Those were
Oh.
temporary classrooms.
Okay.
Right? She said now 40 years later,
Wow.
they're still there. Right?
Yes.
The point she was making, I'd never forget. She said, when you learn to settle for less,
Mhm.
temporary becomes permanent.
Wow, that's the most profound statement ever.
That was worth the whole law
Come on,
degree.
Sherry, you need to type that one out.
That was worth the whole law degree. She said, when you learn to settle for less, because we didn't demand better accommodations.
Yeah.
When you learn to settle for less, temporary becomes permanent. That was worth the whole law degree, the communication diploma, everything else. It was, and that's this government. We have settled for less. You know, they had one standard for the new AFC coalition, and now they got another.
Yes.
For these jagabats and trench crappers, you know what they say now? Listen to the gall and the gumption of these people. Give them some time.
Yeah. Seriously?
Give them some time. Well, I remember we asked for a little
23,
time for
24,
Granger.
25 years. Come on.
We had 3 years before these jagabats pay the other one all the money to betray country and the people. And where he there now? Where we there for it? Jagabats and trench crappos. And now they say, give your fund sometime for what? For finishing the great UG? You can go back and finish it.
My goodness, my good. But on that note, we suffered like Sheridan said. We suffered when we were at the University of Guyana under the PP administration. That particular stables, I can speak to that because practically the majority of our classes, economics classes, were kept in those classrooms in the stables there. It was just literally a knocked up little wooden structure. And I can say that probably that the uncomfortableness of that environment altogether may have resulted in the economic students not being able to pull through. I remember our class always the economic sign up is always close to 100 students every year, and then come down to graduation at the end of that 4 year, you're down 30 something to 30 something students. People was not able to cope with the hardship. You're in the blistering sun some days, no fan working in there, the seats ripping your pants because things are the splinters on.
I guess I'm bored now. I probably collect some good communicable disease. From all them boards, everybody gonna sit down on the same nail board and them. Maybe that's a COVID start, wasn't it? Feng Shui,
And
China.
the field that is supposed to be there to for the utilization by athletes altogether, that field is always flooded since
That's
the
why
rain.
it's a dual purpose.
Since the rain
Premier
smiled.
education institution and premier reservoir.
It looks like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Persons don't know. So when people come, when the people speak about their interest in education, all those things, it's laughable because we suffered under their.
We've been there,
and we're suffering again.
We've been there, right? Look at IDC. IDC needs a fixed place of a board.
Yeah.
IDC then knocking about all kind of school to try to bring people up to a level. But for me, I remember how I went through IDC. Some folks came to our school and they were so accurate. They said, if you didn't know us yet as a reformer, what area you wanted to be in, IDC, the what you call it, the Industrial Relations and Management course was a good course to get into because it had so many other subjects in it. I did in IDC, in that program, Industrial Relations Management, I did law, I did communication, I did economics, I did math, and all of that. Well, I thought after that, I said I can do economics. There's where I met some fantastic people. I thought I was going to do economics, but when economics really braced me in huge, I realized, you know what? I can let this here, man. I
Uh,
want something harder. I can take on
I could
communication
remember
and law.
Attorney Lord Darren Wade at some point. Him and I crossed paths in courses. I believe he was doing economics with
Yeah,
Bob.
but Darren was
Darren
a
said,
sweet boy in those days, you
Darren said,
know.
don't worry
Darren's a
with
family
this.
man now, right? But we came through, and these guys didn't have no interest in education,
Yeah, but the
no interest.
IDC is basically set up as the Institute of Distance and
Yes,
Continuing
yes.
Education. So,
It's a good pathway
yeah.
into university if you don't have all of the qualifications. And I would suggest, as people also would have said in the past, if you're not too clear yet what you want to do, it has a broad spectrum of disciplines, especially in that IRM program. I hope it still operates because it
Yeah.
worked for me, right? It worked for me. That being said, folks, they were never interested in education. They were never interested in anything. And because we settled for less, temporary has now become permanent. Hopefully, we can reverse this course. Hopefully, we can reverse it. Folks, we're going to tell y'all cost of living gone sky high, right? And it's not only due to Ukraine, the war with Russia and Ukraine.
What are you
It is
talking
not
about? Come
only
on.
due to this global logistics crisis, global shipping crisis. It's not only
The
due to
global
that
supply chain, as
chain,
they refer to it
global
right now.
supply chain crisis. It's them.
Yeah, before the war, and I said this on so many programs prior, that before the war between Russia and Ukraine even started, the inflation rate in basic food items in Guyana was 14%. So no one can come and tell us that this is because of the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Folks, listen to us. Listen to us. Now, just last year, and I want to give you the date. I want to give you the date accurate. I sat down and I spoke with Mr. Winston Jordan on some economic issues. Right? We spoke to Mr. Jordan on some economic issues. Yep. Also present, this was the 18th of November, 2021. Charita was part of that discussion we had on the air, part of the affiliate program In the Ring on the air, and Tabitha Sarabo Halley was part of that as well, part of that program. I just want to make sure I got the date right because it'll put things into perspective, right? It'll put things into perspective. 18th day of November 2021. I think it was, we were talking about something around the, I think it's 7% increase, somewhere there about. We may have been discussing that among other issues. And one of the questions that I put to Mr. Jordan is asking him why, with this huge injection of money, you had the first budget of the PPP, they call it the biggest budget ever, and then the second one, you had all these supplemental budgets after that. And they were throwing a lot of things at the economy. Nothing was working. And they want to hoodwink Guyanese people to think as, oh, it's since this war started. No, it is their incompetence coupled with all of that. Their incompetence first and foremost. So listen to it. This is the first day of November, sorry, the 18th day of November. Last year, we only in this war about 3 or 4 weeks now,
Oh my gosh.
right? But it's
You need to
them,
send them that memo. I
right?
don't think they remember.
Listen to what the discussion was and to how far we have come. Forgive any little static you may hear, guys. Any little static you may hear. Take a listen. And beginning with Mr. Jordan, every time they make an injection in the economy of money of this magnitude and similar, they talk it up as being a stimulus for the economy. And just in his last press conference, Irfanali talked about how much money they have given. They give 2 billion as the first one-off, 25,000 public servant. They gave another 500 million to the discipline services, 8 billion in COVID cash grants, another 3.6 for support for schools, and so forth and so forth and so forth. One, why isn't any of this seemingly stimulating the economy? Nothing is moving. Business people are complaining of the hardships. And then, two, we heard in that very press conference, the president almost on his knees begging the private sector to let this thing pass down to the common man because they ain't passing it down, whatever they're doling out. Why is this? Why this economy is moving no place?
Yeah, well, Sharon, when you really hit the nail on the head, you have to know you have to know of the bailouts that are given, where the money is going to. If they had given $20 billion to the province and the hardworking workers in the other sectors, whether it be the discipline services, teachers, and so on, you'd have certainly seen it being reflected in the stimulation of the economy. But a large chunk of this money was given to the private sector. And the private sector will generally either save it, right, or change it over into some other asset such as foreign currency or gold or something and stash it away. That is why you're not seeing the kind of effect in the economy that you would have seen had you given the money directly to these consumers, which are the public service and so on, because they will spend most of it. They will invest it in their housing, help to build the houses that they for the very house flats that they've given out and so forth. But that money has not passed through to them. And now the government is recognizing, after I raised this point since last year, after the first budget, that what they are doing is old-fashioned economics that was discredited and to some extent discarded since the 1970s. That is called trickle-down economics, giving it to the private sector in the hope that they will feed it through to the consumers ultimately, who will then use the monies to stimulate the economy and buy from the very private sector and so on. This discredited since the 1970s, and it is shown here. The bulk of the concessions went to the private sector, and rather than passing through, they appropriated it, and rightly so. We do not have the markets in Guyana, the kind of markets that would allow for that feed through, which is competitive markets. All we have here is a bunch of oligopolies. You know, even though you 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people who controlling either the distributive trade, right, the wholesale trade, and so on. They don't have a similar situation, for example, like in the gasoline sector, where if a concession is given to Gaia will then pass it through in their prices and ultimately to the consumer. Mm-hmm. And therefore, people like Sol and all of them have to follow, lest they lose market share and customers. We don't have a similar situation in other sectors. And therefore, when you keep pumping concessions into the private sector, hoping that they will pass it to concessions like freight and so on, hoping that they are going to reduce prices, under normal circumstances in a country like Guyana, that will not happen. In a pandemic where you already said that there are shortages and so forth, there is no incentive for any private sector to pass over any benefit given to them by the government to a consumer. There's all.
Yep. Those were the comments of former Minister Winston Jordan, former Minister of Finance. Those were the thoughts. And we had war in Ukraine. So things were done bad. Things were done in a bad spot. And here he's talking about trickle-down economics never worked. Mm-hmm. Right? Giving everything to the friends. And we got no issue with the private sector. They got some fairly decent people in the private sector doing good business in the private sector. But it's just bad policy. And we're seeing what bad policy, poor leadership, right? No vision, where it takes you. Where it takes you. And that is the challenge that we have. Resident economists,
well, when it comes to trickle-down economics, this is my very first budget presentation in the National Assembly way back in 2020, after the PPP first went into office. In August of 2020, we had a budget there, and my very, very first presentation, I spoke about trickle-down economics and the fact that the PPP was utilizing a policy that has been proven to be a failure throughout the world, and they are utilizing that policy here in Guyana, telling persons that yes, if they do this for the private sector and do that for the private sector and give all of these benefits to the private sector, then eventually the common man, the consumers, would benefit. And that has been a failed policy. It has never worked. It has been condemned years ago by every right-thinking government. So when the PPP came into office and they started to utilize that policy framework, I spoke about it from day one. And then I know it was last year, June 2021, I saw a lot of person continue that conversation throughout the year, noting the fact that all of the policy measures seems to be in keeping with that concept of trickle down economics, and with the hope that that will work. But in 2021, I can tell you that I personally got the understanding that the PPP knew it was not going to work, but they just did not care, and they continued along that line with the policy nevertheless, because their interest was to make sure that that little gang at the top there in the private sector, and I often,
Cabal.
yep, and I oftentimes say that when we speak about the private sector, we need to distinguish between the small and medium-sized businesses, because they are suffering just like the other persons in Guyana, just like the ordinary man. The small businesses are owners; they are suffering just as much. But there's this little clique, this little gang at the top of the private sector, and those are the persons that a lot of these measures seek to benefit directly. And those persons have absolutely no interest in putting any measure in place so that it would actually go down and be benefiting the ordinary person in this country. So this is a matter that we have been speaking about, and we will continue to speak about it, because we are yet to see a shift in the policy direction from the administration as it relates to the economic policy that they are following thus far.
Yep, yep, yep. Nothing but the truth. Richard Bacon, nothing but the truth. Basil Clark and all the other folks, Marilyn King and Carol Fortune, nothing but the truth. Marilyn Lorimer, you come late, but nothing but the truth. It's a cost of living crisis. Everything's sky high. The wicked stink and dirty. That's what they're wicked, stink and dirty.
It's crazy.
Now, how they operating currently? You won't think there's a budget
Hmm.
that is operating, that has been passed, and you should be implementing your budgetary measures.
That is
That being
correct.
said, if you have emergencies, one could see you deviating for good cause.
Yeah, like
But
the
what we
emergency and the
see,
cost of living.
what we saw yesterday in Region 2, and we love our brothers and sisters from Region 2, but what we saw yesterday boggles the mind. How the people operate, right? This is governance by protest. Once they base protests, things happen. Other people, not so much.
But how does, I hear you on that, but my question always is, how does it elevate the standard of living of those very people? You go there and you put things in place that literally will not benefit their standard of living.
And when we walk through them,
Yeah.
I want you to restate that, come back at it, and expand on it. We saw sugar workers protest. Same Chagabat Chagdio. Irfan was overseas at the time, and they got a
Yeah.
200 million injection.
Yeah.
We've been covering this,
Yeah. Well, the sugar workers,
right?
I
I
can.
think they are told to protest.
Yeah, I that most definitely. But what I can say about
The
that,
Jagabat gives the union a wink.
yes,
They turn out to protest, they get something.
I don't even know if the union is involved that much, because the union seems to be sleeping at this moment. But what I can say about what have been given to them, I want to just tie it in. For example,
Turn it in for us.
we spoke tremendously about the $250,000 that was given to severed workers that had already received severance pay. So this was an additional set of money being given to them, and you go and you give them this money. How long did 250,000 last? That worker and his or her family, and it goes back to what I'm saying, that they are not doing anything that is going to elevate the standard of living of people, and not even their own supporters, those poor people there, because giving them that to quail and to throw water on the heat some bit, that's all it does. It's a temporary solution, and they are yet to provide any solid measure that is going to elevate the standard of living of those persons. And I want those persons to understand that and wake up and understand that what even the little handouts that is being given, it does absolutely nothing to benefit you and your family in terms of raising your standard of living. And that is the point I'm going to always hit home to, because I am an advocate for poor people. And these handouts does absolutely nothing to take people out of poverty, and that is the fact.
Yep. April 2021, almost a year ago, the workers, Burby sugar workers strike and get a $200 million
Yeah.
from Jack Dio. Irfan was overseas at the time, right? And you name it, budget after budget. Gaisuko has gotten monies. Budget after budget. They've gotten monies. And so here we are today, biggest budget after biggest budget. September 2020, 329.5 billion in national budget. February 2021, biggest budget again, 383 billion. And it's bigger than all of this because they came back for supplementals.
Correct.
And then this year's budget last month, 555 point something.
552.9.
552.9 billion.
Correct.
1 month later, country in crisis.
Yep.
Everything sky high. Everything. With all of this money, you can't even buy bread.
Well, the question
Oil,
is,
flour.
where is it
Where
being
the money there?
injected into? Yep.
Who got the money last month? $552.9 billion. Last month, wasn't last year. The budget, you see, so much has happened since then.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a year ago the budget passed. Was last month.
Mind you, one of the things that I took note of is the fact that one of the rice farmers was asking, in relation to the farmers market initiative, he was asking the vice president in the meeting if they can push a road to go in to the farm, and basically was, so where are we going to get the money from? That was a question that the vice president asked.
So what were the budgetary measures for Region 2, for instance, last month? Because yesterday, you would think the budget was being read in Region 2. Yes. Because
for the first time.
For the first time. Because Region 2 residents, yesterday, Papa Jagabat was there, and he gave 250 small businesses to receive grants in S2.E2. And he had a budget passed last month.
That is correct.
Sure if you go through Ashney budget last month, you won't see that in it. Where the money gone?
It's different.
800 government-related jobs. He promised in for Region 2 because some workers, some rice farmers strike. And you got to appease the base. They're now offsetting internet costs for gold scholarship. This is a slap in the face of every UG student.
Well, not just a slap in the
every
face.
Student across this country here who has suffered.
Every student.
Right? It's a slap in the face. How long are we going to take it? They're going to offsetting internet. I'm not saying we love, again, all these Guyanese, the Essequibo, and more so, we're fighting for you people in Essequibo because we know what's happening across the river. Right? But there must be equity. Equity, we got to close the gap. What happened to the other students in this country who got some grave internet issues and want to be online? Huh? Why some regions more equal than others? In addition to that, you got 2 major water treatment plants, right? People suffering now. One of the people at that press conference, a woman said she couldn't afford something. She was shut down quickly yesterday afternoon in the meeting. She said she was talking something about the hardships. The hardships, right, of having food to eat. Right? When 2 water treatment plants go finish bill for easy hardships. Right? How you going home and say, children, I know you're all hungry, but 2 water treatment plants come in. 1 billion in road projects. Right? And with the cost, that could be a half-mile road. Clearly, the farmer who asks about the farm to market road, he getting that road.
My gosh.
So who
He's
getting
not
this
getting
1 billion
that.
road? Clearly, with the cost, some of them contractors, because the kickbacks, they got to give people like Sharon Hicks and them. Clearly, there could be a half-mile road. 2 new large school buses. Right? When you got to think about bread and flour gone up, right? You got what you selling the kit for the students to go to school with? 2 large school buses. And these are the people who took away the David Granger buses, coming back with school buses. And then we see a 600 million to dredge the mouth of the Pomeroon River.
I'm actually as you're speaking,
So when the budget for Region 2?
I'm actually pulling up the Region 2 budget for us to go through the capital project
Talk to me, economists. Oh, my spine tingling.
that they budgeted for, because like Sharon is rightly saying, you have to go through these things in order to properly understand what is going on. And they have done a bit of budgeting, but when it comes to, I'll just touch on the education factor, the capital work that was put in there. We have one program here says basically it is the this is furniture and equipment. The project entails provision for school furniture and equipment. That there's $32 million. That is education all by itself. That's education delivery. I am not. Oh, there's another education delivery. Um, Payment of retention, completion of the Abraham Zool Secondary School, construction, the special. There's nothing about the bus here, so it begs the question as to, or why wasn't that budgeted for altogether if that was a need for the people?
It talks about poor budgeting.
Yep.
Because if Region 2 got all of these felt needs, right?
And I dare say we should be checking in on the progress of what was actually budgeted
Yes,
for.
the implementation.
Yes.
If Region 2 got all of these felt needs, right? The small businesses need grants because they're struggling, right? They ain't got jobs,
The country doesn't have jobs.
right? They ain't get jobs.
The country
Internet
doesn't have
issues.
jobs.
It's not since this war in Ukraine started, they got goal.
Let me pull up when
Right.
you said before you move off
Water
from
problems for the
be-
water treatment plant.
before you move off from job, I just want persons to understand that the latest hold on, I'm going to pull it up directly. The latest report, the latest figures posted by the Bureau of Statistics on their website when it comes to youth unemployment is 1.9%. That is the youth unemployment rate in our country, according to the Bureau of Statistics. So there you go. So when you're talking about providing jobs, this is not the youth unemployment rate in Essequibo. This is the youth unemployment rate for Guyana.
31.9% unemployment. So
that's youth alone.
So they say youth alone. So they're saying 800 government release. How come they didn't factor into the budget? You tell me it's the last 3 weeks since they got this war, 800 people become unemployed?
Well, that is
How come they make the budget? What getting into the budget? Did you telling me that you got a budget there and nothing here in cater for? And 1 month since you're reading in the national budget, all of these things suddenly become relevant.
Yes, it's poor budgeting at the
Right? Two
basically.
major water treatment plants. It's when the water in Region 2 gone bad, went bad. Right? 1 million in roads. It's since the war started, like Russia bombing we here and destroying we infrastructure. 1 billion in roads. 2 new large school buses. How the children going to school all the time? How come this are meeting the budget? Right? How come this? 2 large school buses. How them the children walking, the canoeing, the running?
No, because they believe that they could have just gone in and haphazardly removed things that were beneficial to the people.
So if these guys in protest, we'll never know that the mouth of the Pomeroon River needs dredging. They got problems there. How we doing budgeting? How? Oh, to God. IDB, help we out here. How we doing budgeting?
I want to actually touch on the implications and the psychological play that is being had by the ministers going out into the communities, not to reinforce what they have in the budget and not to update persons on the progress thus far of these things identified in the budget. They're going out there and they're saying that, oh, come give a complaint and we will settle the needs. They do that because they want to tie the requests from persons directly into saying that, oh, when the minister come, they're going to give us something. They don't want it to go through the structured process. That this is the budget. These are the things that were identified at the regional level. The RDC is involved in the preparation of the budget for the region. So it's not a case in which it was that aspect of it was not done locally. And now, when it has been integrated into the national budget, it should reflect the will and wants of the people. But what you are seeing here is a fact that the people there were not consulted. They do not know why things that they need that was not mentioned in the budget. So they're here complaining that this is what we need and these are the things that are helpful, and it's not there. So the people is using this plain psychology as they always do, and going out there and trying to give persons the impression that in order to get anything, you have to come directly to a certain set of people.
Well, it's two sets of madness happening. Two sets of madness, right? Because look the backwardness. This is why Sarah and Lynch and them must sit down, Jane Miller and the other High Commissioner. Sit down and laughing we, the British High Commissioner, Mr. Borman. Sit down and laughing we, because the budget read a month ago, but we now doing the consultation as to what the people really want. And the budget done read.
Right? Classic style of the PPP.
You mentioned, and that is what we say. That is what we spoke about. Remember, we showed you guys graphically how the PPP operate. There was a hole on the road. And they problem solving is they draw a line around the hole, a white line. And then when there's a little public pressure, they're going to rub out the line.
Oh my God.
And then when there's enough public pressure, they're going to patch the hole.
Well, that's just
right?
bad.
But they just had enough public pressure in Essequibo. The whole country should protest now. They just had the public pressure in Essequibo. But you mentioned the RDC budget.
Yes.
And if the national budget in so much confusion for Region 2, I am looking at the RDC budget for all the regions right now, graphically.
Yes.
And from 17,500,000 budget the previous year, Region 2 got a 20 million budget.
Yeah.
It begs the question, what is included here?
No, well, that I just want to just give for persons that don't know that are online. Listen, that specific number is given under the line item as we refer to it as 6211, and that particular figure there goes. That is the budget that is given to the regional administration for the region to decide on the spending from that allocation.
But again, they might have a lot of problems.
Well, they're not just a
regionally.
Lot, not just a lot, because based on the fact that the budget for the region does not reflect the will of the people, I don't see how they're moving forward with the spending that specific allocation, because it basically shows that the persons at the helm there that is making decisions and doing the budgetary work is disconnected from the reality.
That is the point I'm making. Yes. That is the point I'm making. If the national budget that just read last month didn't capture all of these critical things, then I have serious doubts what this 20 million at the regional level is capturing. That is the problem I have. And so when they're gone and they do this quick fix here, to us, to me, this is drawing a white line around the problem.
Correct.
Right? And you're really fixing the problem. Because, and it begs the questions. If y'all always on these outreaches, pretending y'all listening to the people, and you still got this about the problem in Region 2, your own base, working in other places, y'all just on photo ops, wasting taxpayers' money on photo ops. Now, on our broadcast last evening, we played a footage of a video coming out of Linden, Region 10, of which the water coming out of a pipe, Madam Parliamentarian, your Honorable Treaty Finance, you won't even pay your dog in.
Oh, wow.
When Region 10 gonna get day 2 water treatment
Did you
plants.
look at the vote count for Region 10?
Oh, it's based on votes?
Well, that's how we're seeing it, isn't it so?
Oh, it's based on. Perhaps then
Mm-hmm.
that would tell us why we are seeing certain things on this map we have here looking at. Why we're seeing so many things being given to region 2? Because it's a political map. It's not really one Guyana,
Well, this
right?
is
It's
the way
one political map,
I
Guyana.
have, I have had the experience, and I don't hold no apologies because I have had the experience of being born and raised in Region 7.
Mm-hmm.
Region 7 is a region that is not won by the PVP to be exact. And because of that, I went through the majority of my life of when it comes to water, worst service. When it comes to electricity, worst service ever. When it comes to roads, worst road ever. When it comes to the stelling, you had to fear for your life as you walk there. And that is what we went through all the time. Several protests action was taken in regards to lights and so under the PVP prior to 2015 because it was so bad. All services so bad. Why? Because Bartica was not a region that voted. Bartica was not a community within Region 7 that voted for the PVP. And because of that, they cared not what went on there. It was between 2015 to 2020 is when you saw that transformation of Bartica altogether. And everyone that was there prior to 2015, when they went back, they could not believe where they were. You know, I see a lot of persons go up to Bartik and they're taking pictures of the Golden Beach and the project, the waterfront project there, and everyone love it because you could go and relax and it's so neat and clean and well put together. And then they go in the West Indies scheme and they go by that green park there and they take pictures, persons from the wedding and all of those things, and they go so many different areas and they love the sightseeing and all of that. Why? Because from 2050 to 2020, the coalition invested there. And I want to make that the point now that if you check online, you'll see some photos also from Region 2 that is coming forward with waterfront project that was done under the
I
coalition.
was coming
So
there.
I want to
Region
make
9
I want to
got a
make the
lot of
point
infrastructure projects
the
too on
coalition
the coalition.
invested in every single region. That was the definition of a one Guyana. What went on then? Because every region was heavily invested in when it comes to public infrastructure and all of those things. But now we see everything being dissected and based on which region supported the PVP.
And which part of the region?
Exactly. Which part of the region? Very, very important for you to know it. Which part of the region? Those are the areas that they are most concerned with because they don't care about anyone else that they perceive that is not for them.
Yep. And again, as George rightly said, when we look at this map here, that's what we see. But it's the data. It's the data for us. Right? Because when you saw all of these giveaways yesterday in
Mm-hmm.
Region 2, because Region 2 is a base. The base angry, so you go to appease them. You said take 2 tennis shoulder and a cup of black tea, call me in the morning. Region 3, the people who beat the coalition over the head about the sugar industry. We didn't know what we're doing, and they were coming to make sugar great again. Not one
Mm-hmm.
sugar estate has been reopened. As a matter of fact, Wales in Region 3, they dashed that to some private people or going to some private people to do gas to shore, right? Gas to shore. So Wales not opening back. Wales not opening back. Region 4 has largely been won by the new AFC historically, but they got pockets in Region 4 that that vote for the PPP traditionally, right? And that's along the East Coast, for instance. So Elmore, then opening back Elmore as promised. Even the packaging plant, they said they were sending to Skeldon. Now they said that it's going between 2 estates. The packaging plant has gone now from Elmore. They privatized that.
Correct.
They gave away the lands there, give away the equipment to friends and family, right? Elmore's on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they say in Elmore now, they're putting an industrial development site. Why not in London? Why not in Buxton? For instance, it's all on the East Coast. Why Elmore? We love our Elmore people. But
Mm-hmm.
why at Elmore? Mm-hmm. Cha-ching, where votes are concerned. Cha-ching for the PPP. Uh, Hope, again on the East Coast. They say they're doing a wind farm. Wind only blowing at Hope.
Yes,
Wind only
continue.
blows at Hope. Interesting. And then the Barbies River mouth, CGX, they say they're putting a deep water port. Oh, that's the only place water flowing for a deep water port. Uh, And we're gonna be filling in this. We got the content, we got the information to show you guys what the data is saying. You see, they can talk one Guyana, but when we can expose their one Guyana plan, we can skin it up and show there's no one Guyana. Right? There's a PPP
Most
wanting to divide
definitely.
Guyana.
Well, I want to give some more context to what a statement that
Contextualize this for
that you
us,
just made, and
economists.
when you just spoke about the fact that even in regions that that the coalition won, when they do projects within those regions, you if you are to look at it, you're going to see that the areas that they actually are investing in and they're doing work in would be these small pockets within those regions that would have supported them. So even at that level, like a lot of time you will go to the budget and you will see a budget for example, for Region 7. But then if you dig into the details of that budget, you will see where the majority of money is being spent altogether. And I must say it spells very nasty for the PPP and how they actually do work. And if for example, let me just talk about Region 7 for a bit, because let me just give the information, because a lot of times I often say that when we come on and we speak, we must be able to back up what we're saying with the evidence. We're not
Show
just
me the
saying,
evidence.
right? So looking at Region 7, for example, Region 7, when it comes to the capital works that were budgeted for, public works in particular, you would go through one of the projects here, the project code 77, you see rehabilitation of roads at Camera, Arrow, Philippi, upgrading road at Kako. These are areas that are more in the middle and upper Mazaroon. You will see construction of bridges at Jawala and Philippi. You know, these are the areas. And mind you, the saturation of population is in Region 7 population is Bartica, right? You see the project is the construction of river defense of at Agatash. And mind that is something that they're continuing that started under the coalition. And then as you go down, you will actually see that when it comes to the capital work that your budget construction of primary school, you're looking at Kaikan, Etabringbang, Jawala, you know, these are the areas, Foul Mouth, those are the areas of Purima Nursery and so forth. So it begs the question of how is it that you look at the region, the saturation of the population is there within Bartica. So much needs to be done specifically in Bartica, but the budget does not reflect what actually needs to be done, but actually what they want to be done.
Yep,
It's
yep,
most
yep.
ridiculous. And if you
Interesting
go
point.
into those communities, you would hear the persons are actually having different needs and different wants, but they're not. They don't care about it like that. They don't care to consult. Probably when they go into the upper and mid Mazzaroni, they're going to be having to give some more promises, because what the budget reflect doesn't necessarily come from the being the will of the people, and that this is a situation that's going to be repeating itself as the year go by. So it's just the beginning there in Region 2.
Yep, 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 yep. Love that. Love that analysis. But you know, as we going through the pangs and the fangs of the cost of living crisis in this country, under these jacobats and trench crappos, the catfish under them, proposals are being made how we can bring down these costs. For instance, the AFC, as a political party,
Yeah.
talked about some interventions where flour is concerned,
Yeah,
Judah.
well, in the AFC was speaking specifically about the subsidizing the milk, because and that statement and that came out after the milk would have announced that they would be responding obviously to the rising costs, and they would have to increase the cost of flour. So the AFC basically said that there is there's a net benefit that the country is getting from the sale of oil with a spike in the prices. So a fraction of that could be utilized just to subsidize the milkos, so as to take the burden off of the ordinary Guyanese man and woman that needs to provide for their families, make breakfast in the morning, make dinner in the night. So that I 100% support that call. I think it is just a very tiny fraction of all the things that could be done to actually ease the burden on the poor people in this country right now.
Yep, yep, yep. So kudos to the AFC, the Alliance for Change for that, and then the PNC, the PNCR, and their astute leader, Mr. Aubrey Norton. They had their press conference yesterday, the usual press conference, and a number of things were put forward. Kudos to the People's National Congress reform for some of the things that were proffered. Of which one of the things Mr. Norton said is tapping into this $5 billion that they set aside
To ease the rising cost of living.
and easy rising costs, and like you got to beg them for spend them.
Well, I
He
spoke.
said tap into that
We
for
spoke
one.
about this $5 billion yesterday, and I am of the opinion that this $5 billion was allocated, and the intention that they have is for it to be used as a slush fund at some point in time. So, Mr. Norton is calling them out. He's saying that you put this $5 billion here. You said you're going to utilize it, so use it. He's calling them out for the utilization. Just so let's see how they're going to respond to that. But I have a personal belief that that's a slush fund. They're going to use it to appease their support base, and no one else. That's my interpretation of what that is there for. So if there's anything to prove me wrong, I welcome it. I welcome being proved wrong when it comes to money to help poor people generally in this country.
Another thing that was proffered here, right, is that the PNCR had advised the government increase public servants' wages and salaries by 25%. And Mr. Norton said yesterday that would have been a good cushion for
Oh,
them to land on in this cost of living crisis.
well, again, again, let us go
But
into
catfish them get 7% instead.
uh,
They're hearing.
when it comes to the wages and salaries altogether.
Talk to us.
We have been speaking about it quite some bit, but I just want to note one point as you are on that, and I'm just pulling up to just get the exact figure for you. So just if you can bear with me a little bit here.
And while you're on that, they also talked about a couple other measures.
Well, I'm looking. Well, there it is.
Go right ahead.
So I'm
Jump
looking
right in.
at the actual 6141, because this is a budget, a line item that has been in the public, that has been a part of public discussions for quite some time throughout 2021, because persons are looking at it, and this is basically other employment costs and other employment costs for persons that are not familiar with this line item. That the monies allocated here is the monies that would be utilized to increase the wages and salaries of public servants. So, as persons would remember, like Sherry just mentioned, that there was across the board 7% that was given, that basically amounted to nothing after not giving public servants one penny increase in the year prior to that. So that didn't make any sense. But I just want to note at this point in the 2021 budget, there was $10 billion put in that line item. And in the 2022 budget, there's a $15.9 billion allocation in that budget. So it's not a case in which you have this budget and the government's hand is tied and they don't have flexibility, so they can't come out here and utilize the funding to do certain things. There are fundings available when it comes to um, tackling wages and salaries, but there's so many other measures that can be looked at that will be immediately effective. For example, we just spoke about subsidizing not only flour but other items as well. Basic food items, you cannot allow basic food items costs to be raised on the market so rapidly. It doesn't make any sense that they have they have yet to come up with a strategy that is going to tackle that. But so many ways, so much flexibility. The only thing that we're left to assume is that they're not interested in how poor people survive this and ride out this wave of inflation. They don't care, and they continue to show that their bread, basically their bread is well buttered, and whoever survives survives, who doesn't. That seems to be their call.
Yep. Another measure that was proffered there to to counteract the sharp rise in food prices was the building of agricultural production throughout Guyana in what Mr. Norton says the APNU AFC was doing in its time in office through what was called the Rural Agricultural Infrastructure Development Program, noting that it would have provided neglected farmlands with an opportunity to once again flourish, produce more food.
Well, when it comes to agriculture, I mean, it's stuck in the back of my head. The fact that when farmers suffered tremendously by the flooding, the PPP came to the National Assembly. It came under the Prime Minister's portfolio at that level, and they came and they asked for $10 billion to give out in relief for farmers that suffered losses. And in turn, what we saw was widespread complaints of corruption in the way in which that money was distributed, because persons said that there were people who never planted basically a blade of grass in their life that collected money, significant sums of money, under the pretense of having lost crop from flooding, and persons that actually suffered losses was not given. Some of them were given as little as $20,000 and so on. So there you, if you were to look at that, then you see the lack of interest in actually investing in that direction when it comes to the sustainability of our culture. And then they cannot go out there. Mind you, we made a point, Kemraj Ramjitan also made a point very profoundly, that if the farmers had received that money, if actual farmers had received those money, they would have re-injected it into the work that they do, which is farming, and they would have been able to have a new crop available in a faster timeline, as opposed to them having to struggle through on their own to recover from the losses that they suffer. But when we look at all of that, it is clear that they have no interest in looking specifically at agriculture through a very structured system to make sure that persons are not in the situation that we're in right now. And Sharon, you would remember that there was this blanket statement still being shown around, in which they're saying, well, all cost of plantains and those things have increased, basically because of the global supply chain. And that was challenged, and I was happy to see it being challenged not only by us, but by civil society as well, that says, how do you refer to the global supply chain when you are having plantains coming from Mexico? How do you say that the global supply
They're
chain?
flying it through the states and bring it back.
Right. So some of the things that they say it without thinking altogether, but they have been called out on this. So I hear the call from Mr. Norton there, but it is that is asking the PPP, I think, to do something that they are the least bit interested in. But it's an excellent call from Mr. Norton.
Yeah. Well put. And finally, folks, the Comrade Norton also put forward, leader of the PNCR, that there should be uh, a market supplement to low wage workers, expanding the school feeding program to cover 2 to 3 nutritious meals per day, subsidizing basic food items such as flour, cooking oil, rice, and milk, providing increased resources to families in the public assistance program. But this market supplement, Drita, would be a good one, right? Talk to us about that. What does this market supplement mean?
Well, the market supplement there that and it would be good, but I basically would say that they need to just increase persons' wages and salaries altogether. But the market supplement has been called from by Aubrey Norton. It will be beneficial. It will be able to directly impact the ordinary Guyanese, and those are the policies that we're looking at. Things that will have a direct effect on them. You don't have to go through anyone. It doesn't have to trickle down at any point in time because they will be directly benefiting once those policy measures are put in place. So again, a good call, and again I say that I don't I don't see the PPP even being the least bit interested in these things because everything that they are doing spells that they are not phased by the fact that persons cannot afford to feed their children. They're not phased by the fact that public servants could barely afford transportation to go to work because of the rise in transportation costs right now. So all of these things being put into perspective, we will say that all the calls that have been made are excellent calls that thus far, and I think that the government owes the population, the taxpayers, the people that they are spending their money, the least of whom is the private sector is benefiting so much, Jared. I don't want to tie myself up to go into this discussion at this hour. However, I can say that the only policy that I see that they are willing to put in place is one that is they're going to say that we are doing this and the private sector is going to benefit and then eventually the people will benefit. That's all that they have been doing. So policies like market supplement that will directly impact the people without having any need for a trickle down effect. It's that those are things that they are not interested in because those are things that their friends, that little gang at the top, will not be benefiting from directly. But if you're looking at it in the long term, once the ordinary Guyanese have resources, they go and they spend back the money in the private sector. That's how the economy moves. But they don't want that if it's not directly injected at the top to that little gang of people. They're not interested in it. So very sad state of our country altogether.
Yep, yep, yep. In Timothy Jonas's words, the attorney at law, he said the PSC, the Private Sector Commission, they are beholden to one political party.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add there. That's Timothy Jonas. He said they're beholden to one political party, the private sector. Folks, that's our time today. Unfortunately, we started a tad bit late and wanted to give you the full committed time we promised we'd do a podcast for. We've gone just over an hour, but we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. We got to continue to fight, folks. Boots on the ground. And as I saw my brother kept saying, Andrew Cusbert, the PPP must go.
Mm-hmm.
Naomi Drucker says, well done, Jarita. They must go. The PPP must go. They're bad for business. Terrible for business. My God, they're terrible for business. They must go. Pack their bags and go. Carla Ronalds, good to see you there. Smash that emoji button for us. Share the live stream as you go, folks. Patricia Kissoon, good to see you there. And Carol Jonas, Marilyn King, Diane Graves Zandy. Diane says, real talk. Good to see each and every one of you. We're going to be right back here in the ring this evening, folks. Fight time is 8 p.m. Good to see each and every one of you. Thanks for joining our international podcast, broadcasted from the national capital city of the oil-producing republic, the national capital city, Georgetown of the oil-producing
You
republic.
feeling the oil yet?
I ain't feeling it. We pumping, but I
I
ain't
ain't
feeling
feeling
it.
the oil is
I
yet.
ain't feeling it.
I'm
I ain't
feeling
feeling
the
it.
oil is yet.
Good to have each and every one of you. Maureen Chichester and Wendy, Roland, Daphne, Aaron, Basil Clark. Good to see you, Desiree Hollingsworth, Cherry Baskin, Greenwich. She says, wicked, the rotten. Good to have all of you. Guys, we're going to see you guys back in the ring this evening at 8, same time, same place tomorrow for a podcast. Stay safe, guys. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay
Have a
safe.
good afternoon, guys.